I'm Rob. I've taught high school English for the past 8 years, and last semester I took on a student teacher for the first time.
I'm Melinda. After teaching high school English for 5 years, I decided to get my PhD in English education and try to teach future English teachers how to teach.
I'm Liz. I completed my student teaching last semester in an 8th grade language arts classroom. I also spent a summer working at Cedar Point on the Mean Streak. The two experiences had a lot in common.
It was with some anxiety that I agreed to take on a student teacher last semester. To be honest, I had a few worries. What if we didn't get along? What if he became more popular with my students than I was? What if he didn't cover all the material I covered? Could he teach poetry? It could have been a real roller coaster ride.
So my supervising teacher told me I was going to teach poetry. Okay, I can teach kids how to write poetry. I've been taught how to teach kids to be poetic. Actually, I've only taught college students to write poetry, and they wanted to be teachers. They like to write, and their stuff is good. Of course it worked in my college class. It should work with 8th graders, right?
Don't be afraid of teaching poetry. But I hate poetry, they say. How can I teach it to kids? Don't make it an overly intellectual process at first. Let them write it. You write it. Read it to them. Let them appreciate it. Make it meaningful to their own lives.
I liked many of my student teacher's ideas. Sometimes he used teaching tools that I hadn't even considered. Most of his lessons seemed more student-centered than mine, I admit. He seemed to meet students at their own level and encourage them to respond creatively to the class material.
How can I make poetry meaningful to a 13-year-old boy whose girlfriend was just holding hands with another guy, or the girl who's convinced that everyone's staring at the zit on the end of her nose? This is going to be a challenge, so I came up with an idea. Each student thinks of a phrase they recall thinking, hearing, or saying before school. Then they form groups to make a poem from their phrases. It had worked great in my college class and in this book.
Awesome! How are you going to get them working well in groups? What can you do to motivate them? How can you help them connect it to their own lives?
I introduced my poetry idea to my mentor teacher. She liked the idea, but added that they wouldn't actually use my assignment in their final projects, and that it had to be adapted for third block because they couldn't handle all the group time.
There are practical concerns. Time, coverage of content, and means of assessment are all impossible to ignore. Focusing on just these can be discouraging, a real downer, but it is necessary.
Okay, so the project didn't work out so well. My mentor teacher and I conferenced between each class to figure out ways to improve. But the results weren't all I dreamed of and more. She said it was great that I kept trying and changing, but maybe the kids just didn't get it. Well, for the next time, how do I get them to get it? What can I do better for next time?
Sometimes the best theories, the best laid plans of mice and men, just don't work out in the classroom. Sometimes, too, they do work, and that's a thing of beauty. Sometimes the practice is the theory. You ask, what can this group do? What will challenge them? Theory doesn't fly out the window, it just takes on a new form, more concrete and yet more adaptable.
I'm teaching the same English education class for the 3rd time, in a different way, again. I learn and adapt every time I teach, but what I don't change are my beliefs in student creation, cooperative groups, and problem solving.
Setbacks, paperwork, problems with students, cranky parents, uncooperative teachers, it can be a rough ride.
Oncoming riders, welcome to the Mean Streak. Enter your cars quickly and carefully. Make sure your safety belt is fastened before pulling down on the lap bar. Hang on to all valuable items. Sit upright and hold on tight and enjoy your ride on the Mean Streak.